Still paying hundreds of dollars for prescription glasses? Let's change that. At Zenni.com, our factory direct model means no middlemen or outrageous markups. Just the same quality frames and lens options as the other guys for 1/10 the price. Zenni offers prescription glasses starting at $6.95, as well as affordable sunglasses, blue blockers, and more. The best part? Try any frame, anywhere, with our 3D virtual try-on. Visit Zenni.com today and change the way you buy glasses forever.
This is your host, Tia. This is your host, Tia. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Top 10. Live. Geek Vibes Nation. Geek Vibes Nation. Nation. The Top 10. The Top 10. The Top 10.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you are listening to this, hopefully you're just listening. This is the Top 10 by Geek Vibes Nation. And as always, I'm your host, Tia. And I have with me the amazing Brittany. How you doing this evening?
I'm good. I feel bad because the cats aren't really allowed in the stream room anymore. So... I'm not surrounded by my faithful feline companions.
Why aren't they allowed in the game room anymore?
Because the other day, well, not the other day, they have a habit of playing with the cables of my very expensive computer, and sometimes they like to chew.
Oh.
Yeah. I just replaced my headset because they chewed through the cable, and Aaron had rewired it for me as a temporary fix, and that only lasted so long. So guess what? I had to spend $150 on a new headset, so the cats aren't allowed in here right now.
I don't blame you. When we first got Lady, I can't say for the cats because, Paulie had them for a few years before we moved in with each other. But when we first got Lady, she was chewing through everything. So many of my phone chargers were the tips were bitten off. And so it got to a point where we couldn't keep any of, say, the phone chargers in the walls anymore because we used to. We had to take them out, and thankfully she doesn't do that anymore, but that was not a fun time.
Yeah, I know. It's like, what's bad is, like, if you keep those things away from them for a while, you start to kind of ease back into doing it because you're like, oh, they're behaved, they're not doing it anymore, and then the moment you turn your back, they're back at it again. They earned your trust just to break it again.
Yeah, I know. It's so annoying. It's like, why? How does that, feel good, taste good? And don't you know that you could electrocute yourself? I mean, I think of so many things.
You're like, you have so many toys, but this is what you choose to do?
And that's how it is all the time. I mean, when I was younger, right, my grandma used to tell my mom, why do you buy her toys? She just plays with rocks. And I feel that way with the animals because you go and buy them toys, and you know what entertains them? Like bottle cap. That's what entertains them. Yeah. Yeah, that's what entertains them. So it's like, why do I bother spending money on toys for you guys? But I don't know. Anyway. Whatever. Brittany and I are coming back for the top 10, and we are doing the top 10 best animated shows. I don't know if we've done this topic before. I've realized that we've probably come to the point where we're doing a little bit of repeats, but repeats from like a year or so ago. So I can't remember if we've done this, but either way, I'm very excited for it. I think I told you that growing up, I watched animated shows for way longer than other kids my age. Like, when you're a kid, you go through that transition of watching animated shit like cartoons, and then you switch to, say, live action things because you're an adult now and cartoons are for kids. I didn't have that moment until later. Everyone was watching Degrassi and Malcolm in the Middle and shit like that. And I'm like, I'm still watching Bugs Bunny and crap.
But you'll remember, I didn't start really watching like live action things until we became friends, and you introduced me to Wallace.
Right, exactly. That was me. So I feel very in tune with this this category. I feel like I'm having a moment in my life where I'm enjoying all the things that I enjoyed when I was younger, because I'm like, why am I trying to fool myself?
I know, there's just so much like good stuff back from the past where you're like, sometimes you like to live it. It's like I wanted to play SSX Tricky because I was like, well, man, Tia loves it so much. Maybe I should give it a shot. Which I want to play more, but I swear if that bitch pushes me one more time, I swear to God.
But that's the whole point of the game, is that you shove people down. They shove you down. So that makes it a little more interesting.
Those bastards.
While Brittany has been playing SSX Tricky, which I have as well, I did this thing where the other day I literally went through all of the SSX games, because I know I talk a lot about SSX Tricky, but there were about 6 games in the franchise. So I went back the other day and kind of played each one a little to see what the differences were. And I compiled an article ranking them. And,
wow, that's awesome. That's funny, though.
And I would say that SSX Tricky still holds up to be the best one out of the franchise, like gameplay-wise even, right? But I was going to say, I've also been talking about Blast from the Past. Paulie has been playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a blast for the past. and I've been playing GTA 4, because why the hell not? So it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I will say that I don't know. It's fun being a gamer. I can see why you like it so much, Brittany.
Me? I've never played a video game in my life, Tia. I don't know what you're talking about. Games are for losers.
Oh my gosh. She says this as tomorrow night she'll be probably on Twitch for about 5 to 6 hours.
Oh man, I have to take a small break right now between finals time, but you know how it is.
Yeah, I hear you. Although I have to admit to you, right? And I can say this as a 31-year-old who has been out of school for 9 years at this point? Maybe longer? No, 9 years. I wasn't very much of like a studier, right? I hear you, Cindy, other people who are like, I need to block out hours to study. I need to study tonight. And I never was like that. I was like, I'll read over my notes an hour before the test.
I know. I used to be able to do that, but it's just like now I have the stress of like, man, I have to pay for this. So if I fuck up, I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, that's just going to be longer. And that's just as like an adult brain where I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, me saying that is no way a flex. Like, I'm not sitting there saying that, like, I was so smart. No. That was just me being, like, the ultimate procrastinator and lazy person. But I will say that I always generally got, like, average grades. So I'm like, I'll take it. I mean, for doing almost the bare minimum for not failing, I felt pretty good about that one.
Hey, you got your degree.
I got my degree, and that's all that matters to me. But, yeah, like all these years later, right, when you're first doing all that, you think that it's so important. And then once you get the piece of paper, it's like, oh, who cares how I got it? At least I got it.
I feel like I'm at the point of so much stress with it. I'm at the point where I'm like, once the stress is off of me, how long will it take me to return back to a normal, non-stressed mode? Like, and it's kind of a different subject than what we're on, but I was just gonna laugh and say, they're like, oh yeah, we don't want you to stress over finals, but also we're going to assign a project that you have a week to do, and it's worth 40% of your final grade, and we're going to put you in a group. And I'm like, thanks. Thanks. That's real nice of you. Thank you.
I will say that I hated working in groups, and they always say, oh, this is to prepare you for the real world where you'll have to work with people, when you're at jobs and everything. But no, all working in a group showed me is that there are always going to be lazy fucks, and then people like yourself or I who have to pick up the slack for everyone else. Like, that's what it showed me. Nothing, you know what I'm saying? Like, at least I don't know. I was in a group one time for a class where there was 4 of us. And by the end of the semester, I was the only one left because I think 2 of them literally dropped out of the class. And then the other one didn't tell me and said that they were going to join this other group because all their friends were in that group. And I'm like, okay.
That's not a good excuse.
That's not a good excuse. So literally the day before, and so I remember going, this is way off topic, but I remember going to my professor and telling him, this other person just hopped to another group. It's just me. And this was literally the day before. Oh, and that's right, because so one of the people who dropped out of the class, who was in my group, literally dropped out 2 days before the presentation. So I went to my teacher and I was like, it's just me. And then there was this other kid who something similar happened to them. And pretty much long story short, I just allowed this person to hop onto my presentation because I had already done, the slideshow and all that. I was like, all you need to do literally is just read off of the slides. And I didn't care at that point.
You're like, I'm going to save your grade. I've already done it, buddy.
Oh my God. So ridiculous. But anyway, that's not our top 10. Our top 10, as I said, is the top 10 best animated shows. Of course, let me take a moment to give a quick shout out over to our friends over at Stranger Damies. Stranger Damies is a real D&D play podcast from the main Damie family of podcasts. They stream every Wednesday. They're in the middle of their second campaign. They're amazing people. Anthony, Mark, Dan. They're also joined by a plethora of other friends, including Dan's amazing wife, Jen, who also is part of the Game Vault podcast. And that's another podcast that you can check out. And they also do live streams on Twitch. And of course, my favorite podcast is They Call This a Movie with Aunt, Dan, and Mark, where they talk about old movies and kind of roast them or praise them. So make sure you check that out as well. They're part of the Geek Vibes Nation family, and we love everyone who is a part of our family. By the way, quick interjection, right? On our YouTube page, Geek Vibes Podcast, we have officially hit 1,000 subscribers. So that's awesome. For those who are listening and are subscribed, thank you so much. That means so much to us. If you're not subscribed, go over and do that. Join it. You'll be part of the 1,000 Mile High Club.
I was going to laugh earlier when you were talking about Dan. I'm like, Dan's going to kill me one day if I cannot. I don't know why his last name is so freaking hard for me to pronounce. I struggle so hard, Tia. I'm just going to blame it on Arkansas.
Aquino. Dan Aquino. Dan Aquino, Mark Myers, and Anthony. It's Dan Aquino, Mark Myers, and Anthony Del Vecchio. Can you say that one?
Which one?
Del Vecchio.
Del Vecchio.
We need to have a show with reading with Brittany. No, pronunciation with Brittany.
Dude, hey, I'm blaming it on having speech therapy for how many years? I will take that. I'll die with that, Tia. I'm blaming it on that.
Listen, quick story, when I was younger, right, my mom is so fortunate, like I am, to have really close friends who she's known for most of her life. And one of her friends, I won't say names, it's not a bad story, but, one of her friends lives in Connecticut, and she has this son that, we're around the same age group. So I wouldn't say that we necessarily grew up with each other because we didn't see each other all the time, but we saw each other fair enough, right? And, her son back in the day, he's fine right now, right? But, back in the day, he was a boy being a little shit and everything. And he was making fun of the way that I talked. And he was like, because I said something like, and I had to be like 10. It's not like we were adults, And I said dog. And he was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know there was a W in dog. And I was like,
oh, shit. What the fuck?
And I was like, I'm saying it correctly. And he was like, say dog. And I was like, dog. And he's like, dog. And I was like, dog. I can't even say it now. It's dog.
It's dog. I think I always just had a problem with S's. I don't even remember how I used to say it. So that's why sometimes my S's are super sharp because I had to talk like that all through speech therapy. They like ream your brain that the S's is a sharp snake sound. And I remember that so vividly. And I'm just like, you fuckers.
I couldn't say THs growing up. When I was in kindergarten, I couldn't say things. I couldn't say things like mother. That's why you hear me saying, even to this day, I mean, I can say it now, but just so used to calling mom like ma, because I never said.
I thought that was just an Italian thing.
No, I just never said mother because so again, another quick story. This is just like the introduction of quick stories. Whatchamacalls it? It was like kindergarten, when you're like in younger grades, they do stupid things like you have to put on like performances or something. So I guess it was like the end of the year, like performance to, I guess, talk about what we did. I don't know. I don't fucking know. You gotta ask my mom, right? Why we were doing this. But I was supposed to be the person that like, you're in the group and like each kid steps up and they say like what happened, a little highlight. And my highlight was to say what we did for Mother's Day. And I had to say mother, but I couldn't say mother. And I tried to practice it. But anyway, it came out as me saying Mother's Day.
My mother's
Mother's Day. Ask my mom that. I have no idea why we did, but I said mutter because I could not pronounce my THs. I couldn't really read as a kid. I had a lot of tutors helping me. So you were in speech therapy. I couldn't fucking read. It's actually.
And now we have a podcast.
I was going to say,
great.
It's actually fantastic that we grew up not only being writers, being podcasters, being on YouTube, being on Twitch. It's like, look at us now.
Look, I
can talk. But let's use those talking skills and go right into our top 10. Brittany, why don't you start us off with number 10 on our list of the best animated shows? You like that transition?
Yeah, I like that transition. Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. I'm gonna go with an oldie but a goodie. I'm gonna go with the X-Men animated series. Girl, you didn't you grow up obsessed with it?
I grew up watching X-Men Evolution, actually.
Oh, I think that's the one I meant.
Yeah.
It's that one. That one was so good because I think as kids, like, we always want to be born like special. We want to always get cool about us, something that stands out. And I think the reason I liked X-Men so much, or X-Men Evolution, because I always get them confused because there was the much like older one that I don't remember well, but then there was X-Men Evolution. And I think the thought of like, oh, we could really like, I don't know, like the thought of like, oh yeah, I'm going to suddenly get powers one day. It's like my mama, she, like growing up, because, early 90s, all that good stuff, she owned a tanning bed, right? And she kept this thing forever. Nobody used it, right? The thing is older than I am, right? I was so obsessed with X-Men that I wouldn't turn it on, but I would like to sleep in it, right? She'd make me like a pallet. We call it a pallet, but like putting a blanket down and like a pillow, and I would close it and I would pretend I was an X-Men, like being experimented on.
I love that you just admitted that on a podcast that people are going to hear and listen to. Yeah.
Dude, I had to be like under 10 years old. I was so like, because, I didn't even think about fan fiction or anything until my older brother one time was like, if you close your eyes and imagine a story of like putting yourself in your favorite show, it'll help you go to sleep. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then I started thinking of fan fiction. And then I started thinking of that. And then I was watching X-Men. So I like to pretend I was an X-Men getting experimented. But yeah, that's how much I loved X-Men growing up. Because the thought of just having like mutant powers that could erupt at any point, you know what I mean, was such like a cool thing. And a lot of times it would show like the person coming into their power. Do you remember Spike?
Yes. Yes, I do. Mm-hmm.
Because there was a relation between, who was he related to? I think it was like cousins or something, but to somebody in there, or it was just like a kind of adopted one. I'm trying to remember, but like he was in it and he was like coming into his powers, and Spike would have like these like bone growths on him, right? And just like watching like, oh yeah, you could produce these spikes from his body, but I think there's at some point that his body started like producing like going through an evolution, like getting stronger. And I don't know, I just thought that was so neat.
So X-Men, just to make sure like we're on the same page, right? X-Men Evolution is the one where they're in high school.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the one I grew up on, and that's, everyone has, I guess, what their like touchstone is for these characters, and I feel a lot of that comes from X-Men Evolution. Like X-Men Evolution is still my favorite rendition of Rogue. I loved Nightcrawler in X-Men Evolution. I mean, I loved all of them. I loved their powers. Cyclops, Jean Grey, I loved Magneto, Wolverine, Storm. I just absolutely loved that show. And you're right. I think that a lot of us sit there when we're younger and think like, maybe it could happen to me. Maybe
you're like holding out hope.
You're
like,
holding out hope.
Like Dragon Ball Z, where you like, remember that episode where Gohan's trying to teach Videl how to fly, and like explain how to do it, and you're like, maybe I could do that. Oh, by the way, quick side notes. Storm was his aunt.
Oh, okay. Yes, it's been a while since I've seen it, so obviously I don't remember everything, but I
get you.
Yeah, I mean, I love this show. As I said, these were my X-Men. Before the live action X-Men came out, before the new X-Men came out, I mean, these were my X-Men. And it's funny, I feel in a lot of ways, when I imagine these characters, I still hold it to X-Men Evolution. And I'm sure, I know people love X-Men the animated series, the one that came beforehand, and they hold that to be like the holy grail of X-Men animation. But for me, I loved Evolution. I guess because I was growing up. I don't think I was in high school right at the moment it was coming out, but I think I was going into it, or maybe at least imagining that was what high school was like. Maybe I'll get powers when I go into high school.
Yeah. When you're sitting there and like, and everybody loved high school shit, because remember Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide? I was obsessed with it because it was like school theme, and I was thinking about how school was going to be so much better this year. It never was, but
Well, I mean, remember when we did the podcast where we talked about the top 10 worst couples, and I was talking about Veronica Mars And I was like, I think the reason why it was so popular is because a lot of people who were in high school at that age or maybe going into high school were watching that and obsessed with, what high school is going to be like. And it wasn't like that at all.
But your high school didn't have sushi, you pleb. You mean you didn't have that?
I know that's such like a minor detail to be so like harped on, and I'm sure that there's some like upscale high schools that have crazy shit like that, but it's so unrealistic to the average kid going to high school that I was like, why not show something a little bit more relatable? Yeah. Can I tell you about can I take a quick break to tell you about my high school lunches? Because they were awful. They were so bad. First of all, there was really no variety. It almost was like every day you could get a hamburger. And they were like the nastiest looking hamburgers that were literally swimming in grease. And the only good thing about the high school lunches was that every once in a while you got the option for tater tots. That was it. To me, it was like either you got a hamburger.
That started your love of tots. Holy shit. I see where it started.
I love tots so much that you would get, you're online, right? And you go up to the thing and you're like, okay, I want, whatever, either a sandwich or blah, blah, and I want tots, right? And then the line would take so long because there's only one woman at the cash register and she can't see what's going on. So you're literally eating all of your tots before you get there. So you only have to pay for the hamburger.
Oh my God, Tina, you monster.
I wasn't the only one who did that. You best believe I got that. You best believe I got that idea from other people. It's not like I made that shit up.
I just remembered that for the kids that because we're not gonna let kids just not eat, they would always make like PB&J sandwiches for them instead, and I like those so much more than the actual food, than the little cafeteria and stuff. That I became really good friends with the cafeteria lady, and I was just like, could I have a PB&J instead? Because there was always so many extras, and she's like, yes, baby, you can have whatever you like.
I don't know. I can't remember if there was any option for people who didn't bring their food. I feel like my school didn't care. They're like, too bad.
Sorry, you little fucker.
No, I don't think there was an option because there were a few times that I like either had to, not eat or ask someone to borrow money. Be like, can I borrow a few bucks? Or you tell the cashier, like, listen, tomorrow I'll come back and give you money. Like, obviously I'm here at school.
Or you could get a fucking tab for it, like where you ended up like you felt like owing the mafia money because they would hunt you down for the money until you paid off your debt. Holy shit! You're bringing back memories for me right now. Not good memories, but good memories.
Okay, so one last thing. The funny thing is, you know how there's always the other class that fucks everything up for you.
Yes.
So in my high school, there used to be a thing that once you became a senior, you actually had the option to leave the school for lunch so that you could go out and get lunch and then come back. And I remember this because I remember being a freshman, junior, a sophomore, and seeing this happen because like kids would go, they'd get lunch and you're sitting there like, man, they're going to the Chinese place down the street. They're getting pizza. This one person went to White Castle and brought, everyone shit. Like, I can't wait till I'm a senior. But the class above us were such little shits that most of them didn't come back to school, for the day. So by the time I became a senior, they did away with that. They were like, you have to stay for lunch. Either you stay for lunch or, don't take any, because when you were a senior in my high school, you had the option to not take classes after lunch because those classes were just electives. They're like, so either you have to stay for lunch if you have classes after lunch, or then just don't take any electives and then just go home. And it's like, you know, my parents were like, we're paying money. You better get yourself a freaking elective or two. You know?
Oh, I forgot. I can remember you went to a private school. Like, still crazy that they're like, well, I guess that's kind of like they're like, well, you paid to come here, you can pay to eat.
I went to a Catholic school, so not a private school. When I think of a private school, I think of a school like in Veronica Mars. It was a Catholic school, but
boarding school, basically.
Yeah, but for those who don't know, Catholic school, especially in Yonkers, the Archdiocese doesn't have a lot of money. A lot of Catholic schools close, and I actually remember being in high school and seeing a lot of Catholic schools around us close and wondering if we were going to be next. So it's not like there was a lot. So it's not like there was a lot of money. So that's why we had hamburgers swimming in grease and not sushi. I just want to clear that up a little. You know, I'm just saying. But anyway, back to the point. X-Men Evolution, great way to start off this list. Brings back memories so much so that we could probably then go off and start talking about our high school experiences.
All right.
All right, so let me look. I was like, what am I doing? Why am I looking at my phone? My list. That's right, my list. It'd be good if I actually looked at it. Whatchamacallit? I'm going to start with like a really old one and kind of, you know, just going for an easy one here. But it's going to be the Looney Tunes. And it's going to be... And it's going to be the original Looney Tunes, not the ones that they came out a few years ago, not the ones that they come out with now, because not Tiny Toons, although Tiny Toons wasn't that bad. I'm talking about the Looney Tunes that you grew up with when you were with your grandparents, and they're all old and on syndication, and those are the Looney Tunes that I'm talking about. That's the Bugs Bunny that I love. That's the Daffy Duck that I love. I don't know. I have so many fond memories. I'm sure I've said before on this podcast that I grew up with a very close relationship with my grandparents. I spent a lot of time with them, and we would watch the Looney Tunes. And a lot of it is nostalgia, of course. But still entertaining. I still think that they're entertaining because it's just ridiculous. Their whole shtick is that they're called Looney Tunes because they're all lunatics.
I was like Wile E. Coyote.
Oh my God. Didn't you ever feel bad for him and you just wanted him one day?
I wanted him to win, but his winning would mean death for the Roadrunner. But I was also like, the Roadrunner pissed me off. I'm like, why can't you just die already and just feed him?
Not for nothing, the Roadrunner was a little shit. And also, I always just thought it was funny that all these things that he bought never worked. It's like, wow. Acme is the worst ever company. Why?
All right. You know, there was a lot of times like, is it just a user error? Like, and I still want to know what Acme stands for. Like, the company name. There's like a full story behind it, but I do not remember it.
I don't remember. Can I tell you really quick? There is a grocery store chain here that has a few stores, not a lot. They took over once. There's this other grocery store chain, A&P, years ago that like went under. And there's this new grocery store chain that's literally called Acme. And I'm like, why would you name, my dumbass is like, why would you name your grocery store chain after a failed Looney Tunes company? Their products sucked. Like, that's where my head went. That's where my head went, where I was like, why would you want to name your company after the shit that Wile E. Coyote always got and could never, like, kill the Roadrunner with? But anyway, I don't know. There were so many, like, great characters. I loved Foghorn Leghorn. He always reminded me of...
I do declare.
He always reminded me, for some reason, of John Goodman. I don't know why.
I can see it. I like his accent. I was always like, we even laughed about it in the South because my thing is that he doesn't speak like my kind of Southern, if that makes sense.
He sounds like he's from Tennessee or something like that. I don't know. He'd be like, I do declare.
He almost sounds like Alabama more than anything.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, but it's that very like old kind of waspy money kind of situation.
Yeah. So
You got me saying waspy now, bitch.
I do. I liked him. I liked all of them. I can't say that there was, I mean, they were just all so freaking entertaining to me. And there's so many things that like I remember, like duck season, rabbit season, duck season, and then like I remember the episode where Daffy and Bugs Bunny teamed up finally against Elmer Fudd, and I was like, this is amazing. They're finally getting together and using their powers for good.
Did you have a moment as a kid where you're like, is Daffy like related to Donald Duck or like
Yeah.
Because as a kid you don't get like franchises or like, and also it gave birth to Space Jam. Hell yeah!
I was gonna say I love Space Jam. Do you know I hear people nowadays like talk shit about the original Space Jam, and I'm like, you clearly didn't have a childhood because Space Jam was fucking awesome. Space Jam was the shit.
Nowadays, it was fire.
It was fire. I love it. Well, you gotta remember, like, I'm not a sports person, especially really wasn't into watching sports as a kid, even though I participate in them. But you know who the hell Michael Jordan is. You have to live under a rock to not know who Michael Jordan is. So you're like, all right, Here's Michael Jordan, the biggest sports player of that moment, teaming up with the Looney Tunes. It's so ridiculous. It's great.
And I feel like that was such like a golden age for that sport that it's kind of like, I don't know, it was just worth it.
It was so worth it. Did you see that they're coming out with another one?
I hope it's good. I want to be hopeful, but I'm old and bitter.
I don't know about it because, first of all, so LeBron James is now the star, which is fine, but this is where my problem with the movie comes, okay? They actually released a trailer a few weeks ago, and at first, it looked pretty good, right? It was kind of a different plot, and it was, LeBron needing to team up with the Looney Tunes, and at first it looked good, and then suddenly it did what every movie does now because it can't keep. I don't know why people are so adverse to the old school cartoon animation because it starts like that and then suddenly they turn to 3D animation. And I'm sorry, that's not how I like seeing my Looney Tunes. Like, they're the 2D animation. If you're gonna do Space Jam, why not? It doesn't look. It's not going to look realistic whether you put them in 3D or not. Like, they're cartoons.
You know why they did it? Because it was probably fucking cheaper than hand drawing it, the cheap bastards.
Probably. That's what annoyed me, honestly. They lost me. I kind of was there at first. I said to myself, okay, this doesn't look that bad, actually. Maybe this will be a new Space Jam for a new generation. And then they fucking ruined it, and I hated it.
They juked you, Tia. They juked you.
They did. And so, there's that. But whatever. I hope it's good. So, I don't know. But to me, the old Looney Tune, the old Space Jam just reigns supreme. There's so many great moments from that. I loved Lola Bunny. What was her thing? Go ahead.
Oh, wait, what'd you say?
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say on a side note, you know what I kind of like appreciated about Looney Tunes, especially the old ones, is I remember my mama, she kept she had at some point bought the box. I don't know if it was DVDs at this point or VHS, and the old ones, and Disney really tries to cover up their past,
Yeah.
about the kind of jokes they were making. But I remember as a kid that they said, it basically gave a warning at the beginning because it was like the old original ones. They're like, this is more of like, we leave this not to cover up our past, but to learn from our mistakes of what we used to have in that stuff. And I was like, they basically said, hey, yeah, we fucked up, but we're not going to hide it. And I was like, you know what? I kind of respect that compared to Disney. It's like, I never did anything wrong ever in my entire life. I've never made anything like that. And it's like, you lying motherfucker.
And when you look back at their stuff, you're like, you made a lot of things. You made a lot.
You did a lot of things. I know.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, as much as I'm praising Looney Tunes, and I still think it's such a fun cartoon to watch, there are things that when you watch it are outdated, obviously. So we learned from that. We learned from it.
And I wasn't like to bring up that. I was just saying, like, as a respect for them, like, not covering it up like other animated companies that we may know about.
Yes. I get you. But yeah, I love Looney Tunes. I do have actually a few DVDs of them. I don't think all of them, but you honestly can find them online. They're on YouTube. Go Google them.
I need to try to go through my memos things and see if she still had them or not, because it's been so many years. But I was like, man, that box set. Like, I know you could like find them somewhere else, but at least it would be sentimental.
I'll tell you one other thing so that you know about me. That's like just a little tidbit about me. I love Looney Tunes so much, and obviously my favorite character was Bugs Bunny. Because every Saturday when my grandpa and I would watch Looney Tunes, my grandma would literally peel us carrots so that we could eat while we were watching Looney Tunes.
Man, you had like the best childhood, didn't you?
I did. And that is hugely in part due to my grandma and grandpa. So yes, I had a very wonderful childhood. But so that's my number 9. And Brittany, what's your number 8?
Oh man, let me see here. Okay, I'm gonna go with another oldie but goodie. And I'm really sorry if it's on your list, Tia. I'm gonna go with Justice League. I don't know if I want Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, but I'm going with
both
Justice.
So good.
I know. I think that was another case of like how badly, like, I think most of my childhood ties to me just wanting to be a fucking superhero and some weird fixation with being experimented on, because that was another one. I don't what's wrong with me. This says so much about my present state of mind, doesn't it, Tia? But
100%.
I love Justice League though, because I think, we had grown up watching, there was the Superman animated series, there was Batman animated series, there were all these ones, but you never got to see them truly, interact with one another very much. So it was kind of cool because to us, our parents may have had, their version of the Justice League, but for, my age group, I'm trying to think of the word. It's kind of like getting to see them all interact together like that was just insane, where you're like, oh man. And Batman kind of simping over Wonder Woman kind of made my entire life, because he's such a, stoic Batman. He's a hard ass, but it's like, dude, he was simping for Wonder Woman so fucking hard.
Wait, because the thing though with that, right? Because I feel like beforehand, I don't know where this came from, but it's like you were almost preconditioned to be like, oh, Superman gets with Wonder Woman because they're both like, these for justice, sort of characters, right? It just, it's Superman and Wonder Woman, and then you watch Justice League and you're like, man, it's all about Batman and Wonder Woman.
Right. I think another thing was this, like, I always loved Batman, but, I bet, like, as a kid, I didn't care. But I wonder if people are like, how is Batman going to hold up with all these other characters? And it was like, no, he could beat everyone's ass. Like, it did not matter. And it was just nice. You know what I ended up loving even more than their interactions? The villain team-ups. The villains, like, just being
They're
fucking
so
idiots
good.
together was, like, hilarious. But also the times with, like, some of the villains were really good, really tragic.
That was the best Lex Luthor. That was the best.
Oh, yeah. His voice, he will always be Lex Luthor to me.
That was the best Lex Luthor. You had Mark Hamill come back as the Joker. And not for nothing, I wanted to interject really quick. Like, I'm going to take this moment to bash, the Snyder Cut, right? It never felt believable Ben Affleck's Batman was able to go toe-to-toe with the rest of the superpowered Justice League. And he really didn't. When you watch the movie, he really does not do a very good job. And that's not how I felt during the animated series at all. Like, you 100% almost forgot that Bruce Wayne has no superpowers at all because he was able to, keep up with everyone.
Yeah. Like, I still fucking hate that Lex Luthor, out of the
Snyderverse.
Yes, I hated him so bad because I want to know what that dude looks like that voices Lex Luthor in the other series, because I'm like, if he look good, I mean,
isn't it like an Old Spice commercial where it's like, ladies, look at your man, now look at me. Look at your man. No, and that's how I feel between like the animated Lex Luthor and the Snyder Cut version of Lex Luthor. It's like, it's not connecting.
Yeah, I think another thing was it's like, I think they gave more depth to the villains, because in a lot of the other series, you'd be like, yeah, there's a villain. What's he doing? Oh, he's doing this. And this one was like, sometimes they had really sad fucking stories. And you're like, well, I did not come here to be depressed. I came here to see you get your ass beat.
Whatchamacallit? I love Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. There were some of the best storylines, the best character depictions. Tell me you didn't love, but also hated the storyline of Hawkgirl and Jon Stewart, right?
Oh my god! Like she was like, dude, you're fucking taking me out. Like, he was weird. He's like, I had a vision that we were supposed to be together forever. Oh, and it turns out, we, were killed by this dude poisoning this thing because you fell in love with what was Green Lantern's name?
Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart, yeah, that bullshit where it's like, oh, that you were cheating on me with Jon Stewart and you broke my heart, and it's like, dude, I'm gonna need you to calm the fuck down.
Well, because okay, I shipped Hawkgirl and Jon Stewart, right? Like, yeah. I loved them together. And then when you were finding out about like Hawkgirl's real thing, and then didn't it come to be that she in fact was a spy the whole time, that she was in the Justice League she was like a mole? I don't know. There was like something with it that I was like, oh, why did they do this?
Oh, yeah. And is that the other part you were talking about too? Sorry, I was thinking you were talking about like where it's like, oh, there was the story of them being lovers in the past.
Oh yeah, that's like the typical like Hawkman and Hawkgirl storyline. I was talking more so of like the one where like Hawkgirl was lying this whole time. And I was like, wait.
It was so hard for them to trust her again. I did think it was a little sad when they're like, by the way, since you did this, all those people died, and the dude you love died. And it's like, thanks, I guess.
It's like, I didn't need to be bummed out like that. If you could just not.
Your death depressed me. Can you not? Can you just not die for my sake?
Jesus Christ. But, there was that. And also, like, as I said, I grew up watching those. So, to give you an example, I know a lot of people, their Green Lantern is Hal Jordan. But for me, my Green Lantern is Jon Stewart, because that's who
he's great.
That's who I grew up with. And then my Flash was Wally West. It wasn't Barry Allen. It was Wally West. So when I remember when the Flash show on CW came out, and it was like, oh, it's going to follow Barry Allen. I was like, who the hell is Barry Allen? Where's Wally West?
I still get confused between, I'm like, who? Huh? Which one? Who are you? Who are you people?
Who are you people? Yeah, that's how I felt. But no, I love Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. I love Martian Manhunter. Like, that's my version of Martian Manhunter.
Great.
They were all great. And Wonder Woman was great. Superman was great. Like, I loved all of them.
Can I still say how weirdly I felt being a fucking loving Darkseid growing up?
Yeah, even Darkseid was great. Like, I'm sorry, whatever that shit was that they gave us in the Snyderverse was fucking trash. Sorry, but not sorry.
You know what I think I was like? Oh no. You know what I think I liked about Darkseid, especially like those kind of shows, was, you know, a lot of time when there's a villain, which we need to watch that Apocalypse movie together because it looks really good, and I've been trying to watch like clips of it. Is that Darkseid has a habit of, he doesn't just kill. It's like there in like the Apocalypse War, what he ended up doing was like, and it explains it pretty quickly, but he didn't kill Batman. What he did was he brainwashed him and turned him into like an eternal servant. Or like Wonder Woman, he didn't kill her, he turned her into like a warrior for it. It's like he was a little smarter. Like instead of like, oh yeah, there's a strong warrior, I'm gonna kill them. He's like, nah, I'm just gonna like Thanos them. I'm just gonna keep them, you know, it's fine.
I'm just gonna Thanos them. You know who, I'm sorry, this whole time I've been trying to like look it up. You know who voiced Lex Luthor in like the Justice League and the Justice League Unlimited? And
oh no, who?
I don't know if the name, Clancy Brown. He was, remember in the first season of The Punisher, the first season of The Punisher, the end of Daredevil season 2, Frank Castle's like sergeant who lost his arm.
No! His voice is so iconic. You know who he also voices, I think?
Who?
Silas from Transformers Prime, the dick that like kept Breakdown's body.
I think so. Yeah, he did. It said in the reoccurring role of Agent Silas, and yeah, he's been in everything. Like you're like, oh, that dude.
I'm not okay. I'm not okay.
Oh, Brittany, did that kind of like?
It's still so fresh. It's so fresh.
But yeah, love Justice League Unlimited. Let's see who I'm going to do. I'm going to pick. So it's been a while since I've seen this cartoon. And I actually never got to watch like the revival of it that happened like a year or so ago, but just know that I loved this show. And it's going to be Samurai Jack.
Oh, it was so good. That's a good pick.
I was going to say, did you watch Samurai Jack?
Oh, I did. And then it broke my heart. There was a lot of pain in that show, Tia. There was a lot of pain.
I just loved the show because, first of all, I love the animation style. And I love the character of Jack, how he was very silent. And I loved his backstory. The villain was a great backstory. So you have at first this story that you think is going to take place, say, in the past. With Jack, the main character, being a samurai and it being in ancient Japan and all that. And then I love that it literally transported this character into like this cyberpunk universe.
That shit was cool.
It was so cool. It was like, and when you're younger, you're like, whoa, that's insane.
Samurais can exist in that kind of reality? What the hell?
What? And I just loved it. And again, it's been a really long time since I've seen it. If you have a little bit fresher of memories of it, I'll kick it off to you. But it was one of the shows that I really gravitated to the most when I watched it growing up. I really enjoyed it, and I felt as if it was, this sounds really pretentious to put it in this way, but a higher caliber of like quality than other shows that you were watching, because they weren't just like, shows that I grew up on, like Two Angry Beavers, Ed, Ed and Eddie, Rocko's Modern Life, frickin' all these other shows, they're fun and they're hilarious. Johnny Bravo, Animaniacs, but they're dumb, right? They're dumb. So, you have those shows in comparison to Samurai Jack that had this like really deep story and this really great way of storytelling. And you're like, this is great for a fucking cartoon.
Right, and I love the voice acting in it, which what was his name? The evil dude.
See, I forget I'm gonna look it up while you're talking because I should have it in front of me.
I'm trying to think. His name was like Aku. I think it was Aku.
You could be right.
Well, honestly, his voice actor passed away, and I wish I could remember his name, but he voiced the grandpa Iroh, in Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I don't know if you ever watched it, but he was so great at that, and that's why when they redid the series, it's like it was great to hear. I think his name was Aku. I'm trying to remember. But, it was definitely hard not being able to hear the old voice of him. But it's like the new one was really good, but it was pretty heartbreaking. Being, more aimed towards adults in this one, they definitely took it where they couldn't go last time.
Yeah, and I don't know why I didn't catch it, because I remember when I saw that it was being revived, I was like, oh, I really want to watch this. Yeah, his name is Aku. You were correct on that. Okay. I think in my mind, there's been so many times where I've loved something and then they try and revive it and they absolutely ruin it. So in my mind, I was like, I just want Samurai Jack to live in a nice place in the back of my mind.
Right. Well, it's like, oh, by the way, the voice of him was Mako. Makoto, I think was his name. But yeah, he voiced Aku, and Aku was amazing.
Yeah, no, he was a great villain. He was like definitely a great villain to have. And again, I love the way the cartoon was designed. I really just enjoyed everything about it, how it was just such a cool merging of two different worlds that you wouldn't think would kind of blend well, and they did for some reason.
Remember how traumatized he was at the beginning, which he still was pretty traumatized, but you get what I mean, like, being in that world after being from what he was.
Yeah,
By the way, do you want a small spoiler?
Yeah, no, of course. I don't mind spoilers.
He did finally make it home, though.
Aw, but what happened that's so bad and heartbreaking?
Okay, are you sure you want to hear it?
I'm sure.
So, thing is that you end up finding out that I don't know if Aku got like this lady pregnant or what, but she ended up having a bunch of daughters, and they were called the daughters of Aku, right? And they're all like siblings, and one of them, like, they're all sent to kill Jack, but almost all of them end up dying trying to kill him, but one survives. I think he ends up sparing her, or she gets away, or what, because he doesn't want to fight them, but I mean, like, they are really trying to kill him, you know what I mean? And, he's not really against, like, killing in general, you know what I mean? But, he ends up when I'm living, she ends up, because they've been brainwashed since birth to kill Jack. And so she and she's been trained since birth to kill him and all that. They end up falling in love, and she turns on Aku, right? Well, they work together, and Jack finally kills Aku, and they, he ends up going back to his home, and she goes with him, right? But right as they get married, she disappears because she was made from Aku, and with Aku gone, she couldn't exist, and he knew it was going to be that way, and she disappears right at the fucking, the marriage ceremony.
That's terrible. That's so heartbreaking. Why would they do that?
Yeah, it was pretty heartbreaking. I cried quite a bit. I was a little emotionally prepared because they do that in one of my other favorite animes. But yeah, they do something like where the girl disappears on their wedding day, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And the husband just stands there smiling because it's like they knew it was gonna happen, but they loved them. Ugh.
Why would they want to make us? Why would they want to make us feel like that? That's just wrong.
I don't know. What does Nico from Grand Theft Auto want to make us feel?
Oh, Nico.
I regret nothing.
Oh my God, I regret everything. But yeah, so that's my number 7. Brittany, what's your number 6?
Let me see here. I did Justice League. I'm gonna go with Steven Universe.
You love that show.
Yeah, I was so obsessed because Steven Universe. I think when I first originally saw it on, my little brother was watching it, and I was like, man, this really looks like a little kid show. And that was coming from me loving, like, kid shows, right? But I didn't fully understand what the show was. And as all great things happened to me, it showed up in my YouTube algorithm, a song. And I was like, there's fucking songs on this? And I was like, ugh. Bet it's not going to be catchy, but I bet it's going to be like a little kid song. And I went, oh no, it's amazing. Oh no. And so I ended up watching everything. Ended up listening to all the songs, ended up watching, like, waiting for the episodes coming out. I cried some episodes. It was very depressing in a lot of places because, they focus on abusive relationships. They, being so dependent on another person that your world revolves around them, or, dealing with not feeling like a part of yourself. I think they had, like, their first, like, even though in Steven Universe, the gyms are all very, what's the word for it? I think they're all genderless, but they all take the form of, like, female, like, body-wise, and appearance-wise. But the thing is, like, to have them kissing was a big deal because even though, they said that, but to have it, like, in an actual cartoon where it's been hard for them to accept things like that in front of, when child audiences and everything, it was, like, a really big deal. And I don't know, I just thought the show was so sincere. There's so much, the finale depressed me pretty bit because, you have Steven who's focused, on, dealing with his mother's legacy as their leader, right? And realizing she wasn't, it kind of took a twist on, normally, like, there's the dead mother and you're trying to fill her footsteps, right? But in this, it's like the mother starts out great and you're like, oh, she's the villain. But not the villain. She just wasn't as great as she said she was, right?
Right.
And you realize she had to do a bunch of fucked up things for them to survive. Because it's kind of like Transformers. They were at war, right? And, him dealing with that. And it is very realistic. But, God, it was intense for a show is after, they do a time skip and Steven's an adult, he's dealing with fucking PTSD of all the shit he went through as a child and basically this war, which they don't ever really focus on, but he ends up having, like, panic attacks, like, freakouts, he gets violent, and, seeing him as the sweet kid, but it's like, it was very real, but it was so real it was painful. You know what I mean? Like, the whole show is intense, and all the songs are fucking good. I couldn't have send you but all of them. I'm so sorry.
I was going to say there was a hot second where every day Brittany's like, can I send you this song from Steven Universe? And it was never just one song. It was always like 4.
It was like, one more.
Yeah, so I never watched Steven Universe just because probably I had the same mindset that you did before you started watching it, where you were like, oh, this looks pretty, like, kiddish.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something that, like, I was interested in at the moment. I don't think I necessarily liked the new style and direction of cartoons. Because I'll admit, like, just tell me if you think I'm thinking about this, wrong or whatever, but don't you feel like cartoons have gotten, like, really, like, childish? And I know they're cartoons. It's like
the style has gotten very, like, not like infantized. I'm not trying to say that, but very, like, it's like,
but a little.
Like Teen Titans. But yeah, well, it's like Teen Titans, was so grungy and, like, not grungy, but, like, it was a little more like anime, right? And now it's like Teen Titans Go, and I'm like, this is disgusting. I hate it.
Well, and then also a lot of times it's also the subjects, because if you go back and watch cartoons that were meant for children 20, 30 years ago, there's a lot of things in there that would go over a child's head, but as an adult, you're like, oh, that's a little, adult. But I sometimes catch shows now, and they're so, you put it correctly, infantized. So that's how I feel personally, and I felt that a little seeing the animation style of Steven Universe, but people love Steven Universe. I see people not just you. I've seen people talk about it, and I think it's great to have a cartoon that did have such a progressive, like, story and idea to it. And I'm sure there was backlash, but I never really saw any sort of backlash towards the show for that. And I think that's great to have, like, it's an outlet. And I think that that's important to have kids watch a show like that.
Yeah, and I think that's such a thing, because it's like, there's parts about dealing about, like, feeling inferior or feeling like you were born, I'm trying to think of the word for it, because it's kind of like there's a character in it that her kind, like, of Gem are born huge and, like, super strong, but she didn't end up forming correctly, and so she's very tiny for her kind of Gem, and it's like, oh shit. And it was like a lot of classism too, because pearls were meant to be servants, and there's parts where Pearl, in the show, just being called Pearl, is basically kind of what's the word I'm looking for? She's, what's it called when you treat somebody differently because of prejudice? There's a prejudice, against her, because they're like, oh, look at the Pearl, thinks she can actually do anything, don't you, basically, like, know your place type situation. And it's like, well, fuck, what the shit? Yeah. So it's like, it gets intense. I don't know. I loved it though.
I feel like Steven Universe came out during the time of things like Adventure Time, right? That kind of started very fun and non-serious, and then got more serious as it went.
My God, didn't it?
Because if you watched Adventure Time, it took such a crazy turn. And I feel like that was the same thing with Steven Universe.
I know, it got very, like, I love Adventure Time, but holy shit. By the way, and I know it's not like always their intention to kind of go that way, but when you're watching, you're like, everything's great, and then you're like, oh yeah, they actually had, like, an atomic war, and the characters you see are actually mutated from the the nuclear fallout from that atomic bomb. And it's like,
That did kind of ruin Adventure Time for me because I was like, I wanted a fun show that I could shut my brain off and watch. And then suddenly it's like, now I'm really depressed.
oh, I know. Do you know how many times I cried over freaking Marceline's song with Simon? Holy shit.
I even cried during her song where she asked her dad why he took her French fries. And it's like,
Oh, I know.
and I'm like, why is Marceline the Ice King? We're the most depressing characters in that freaking show. But anyway, going back to Steven Universe, I think that's a great pick. It's funny now, I realize now how long it's been since you sent me a YouTube video of their songs.
It's probably gonna happen.
After this podcast, Brittany's like, so, would you like...
Old friend, old pal, you know what time it is.
You know, the movie Frozen where it's like, do you want to build a snowman? It's like, do you want to listen to Steven Universe?
Okay, bye. So funny.
Can I tell you something really quick that's like really stupid and kind of like off course with this, but it just reminded me of it. And
yes.
you as the listener should listen to this as well, obviously. In GTA 5, when you're playing as the character Trevor and you pick up people, you have the option to either take them to the destination that they ask you to, or you can take them to a cult. So I had seen that was possible to do beforehand, like on a YouTube video. So, and the thing is, the reason why you want to do this, right? Because at first you're like, that sounds awful. But the reason why you want to do this is, A, the first 2 times you get $1,000 each. But then this third time, they bring you into the cult, and then you kill everyone, and then you get up to $100,000. So I was trying to constantly find people to bring there. So literally, I'm sitting there with my controller, driving around as Trevor, and I'm singing, do you want to go to a cult?
Oh my god. Yeah, this is why you should stream. That shit's funny. And you get so one-track mind about it. You're like, this is the thing I'm doing. I will not stop until I complete it. This is my...
Oh, yeah, no, I was in the middle of the story mode, and it's like I couldn't give a shit less. It's like all I wanted to do was just play as Trevor and drive around and be like, who would like to go to a cult? What?
Are you gonna write a thesis on it?
Oh my god. Anyway, I know that was really, really random, but I feel like there was no way that I ever could slide that in without making it just so random. And I was like, I need to say
love
this.
It. No,
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, if I stream that, definitely. But then people would be like, what's wrong with this girl?
The answer is everything, but okay.
Everything. But yeah, Steven Universe, great, number 6. I'm going to hit number 5. Whatchamacallit? I really love this show, and I wish they would come back with it. You know, it feels as if it didn't get enough love, even though people do love it, but it's Gargoyles. Please tell me you watch Gargoyles.
Holy shit. Oh my god. That took me somewhere I wasn't prepared to go to. Do I have to pay money for this trip right now? Or is this shit free?
Wasn't it amazing? It was the best 3 seasons of an animated show ever.
This is the shit that makes people scalies, Tia. This is the shit that makes people scalies.
What the hell is that?
A scaly is like someone that's like a furry, but they prefer reptile creatures.
All right, well, I was going to say that definitely that show awoke something.
Why did they want us to fuck these non-human creatures? They're gonna make people look so good.
It's like, I'm watching this. I am a prepubescent teen. Or
What was the character's name? The main gargoyle? Because
yeah, no. Me and you on the same page. People are like, whoa, where did this podcast go? But don't blame me. Blame the people who made this fucking show.
His
Yeah.
name is fucking Goliath, Tia. We never stood a chance.
No. This shit was the best. First of all, I love the aesthetic of it. It was all dark and mysterious, and I love them being the statues and coming to life and like all the different characters. And you know, it was so great. It was so like rock 80s looking, which, when did it come out?
Yes.
I'm trying.
It came out in 1990. 1994.
Okay.
Holy shit.
So, you know, I mean, not that far away from like the 80s and everything, so you can see where that sort of you know, inspiration and influence came from. And I just loved the whole feel of it. It was badass. The characters were awesome. Goliath was the motherfucking best, but they all were great. And I didn't realize as a kid watching it, but I find out as I'm older, it literally was only 3 seasons. And it was so good. Like, where's the love for this show? This show is the best show ever.
I feel like who was that one female gargoyle that was like, can you stop being a bitch for 5 seconds? And then you realize their story's actually pretty tragic. But I'm like, guy, can you just not for 5 seconds, please, bitch?
I'm trying to look like the Manhattan Clan, the protagonist. You have Goliath, Hudson, Brooklyn, Lexington.
I loved Hudson.
Where's the...
Hudson was the one that was like Ratchet.
No, I'm trying to say like there's...
Demona. Demona or Demona or whatever the fuck her name was. I was like, can you calm down, bitch?
Yeah, and it's like, it's been... Oh, yeah, no, I remember her. Oh!
Fuck her.
I love the animation, though. The animation is so good. It's like, I loved this fucking show. I want to grow some wings at this point. And just
I know. What did it awaken in this? They're like, there's something wrong with the kids, but look what we're giving the kids to watch.
Like, look at this. What were they trying to do to us?
Stop, Tia. You're going to put me on a kick again. I need you to stay away from it. Holy shit. Don't reawaken something. I already have enough issues to deal with.
You know what was cool, too, about this show? Like, you know, it had its fun moments, but, like, the Gargoyles were badass. And they, like, Goliath and shit could be scary at times. Like, it was just, and I know I keep saying, like, I'm trying to stop saying that constantly, but I'm trying to articulate my feelings of this cartoon. Meanwhile, it's been so long since I've actually watched it, but I know I just said before that when they do revivals of old cartoons, they tend to suck, but I would love if someone could bring this back and bring it back right, because the fact that it was only 3 seasons is insane to me.
And I don't know if we ever got an ending, but I was gonna say, you know what's crazy is being so upset. You know when the eggs like got smashed, like when they're in the past, and like I was devastated as like I was like, no, not their eggs.
It was so good. I need to. What is this on? Where can I watch this show now?
I'm going to look it up right now. I need to know.
Oh, it's on Disney Plus.
Oh, no. I'm in danger.
We in.
Yeah, we're in danger. Are we about to start this?
We're about to start this. Sorry, guys. Top 10 is done for the night. We're going to watch some Gargoyles. It was a really good show. It was a really good show. I'm seeing Jordan Peele reportedly wants to make a Gargoyles movie. Give it to him. Give it to him.
Give it to him, yeah. But the Goliath has to be played by Henry Cavill. That's my demands.
Oh my god, body type wise, definitely. I mean, what the shit?
What has happened to us? What happened to the stream?
Stream?
Not stream, sorry, podcast. I'm in stream mode, Tia.
You're in stream mode.
I'm living in the future over here, bitch. No sugar.
I don't know. Anyway, sorry. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent, but Gargoyles was awesome. If you've watched Gargoyles, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm sure that you agree with me. I don't know anyone who's actually watched Gargoyles and said, like, oh, this isn't a good show. If you don't know the show, then yeah, I give you a pass. But I've never heard anyone say, hey, that was a bad show. So whomever is in charge of figuring out what gets rebooted and revived, revive this shit because we need it now. Anyway, Gargoyles is my number 5. Brittany, what's your number 4?
I feel like I can't compare to that. Like, I just didn't expect that to. Woo! Okay. Let's see here. Woo! I'm gonna go with Transformers. I think I'm gonna end up going with Transformers Prime, just because that's how me and Tia became friends.
It is.
That's exactly it is. It is. It started this. God, how long have I been like withstanding you? But I'm wearing out to you. I'm wearing out.
You were 19. You were 19 when we met.
I'm about to be 27.
That's a long ass time.
That's a long ass time. Yeah. I was gonna say, I always loved Transformers. Growing up, the Transformers Armada, Transformers Beast Wars, Armada, Energon, Cybertron, and then Prime, and then animated. Well, sorry, it was animated and then Prime, but they were also good. And I think what was really a standout for Transformers Prime is that they went into, before that, which Tia, I know you kind of more towards Transformers Prime, but, G1 was, hand-drawn. And then they went into Beast Wars, which was kind of like that fucked up, like, you remember when, like, the world went into that weird phase where they're like, this is a great idea, and it's like, this is not a great idea. This is terrifying. Beast Wars is unwatchable. And this comes from a hardcore Transformers fan. Beast Wars is unwatchable. The character great, development great, the actual animation fucking awful. But, Armada went back into being hand-drawn, and then Energon went back to the fucking, like, looking like, I don't know how to say, where they try really hard to make them almost like blockish, like you feel like you could grab them and twist them, and I don't mean that in a good way, but then we had Cybertron, which was the same way but a little better done, except and what else? Then animated went back to being drawn. I don't know if it was hand-drawn, but you get what I mean. And then Prime really finally did the animation right, where it was like, it felt like it was realistic in a way, but not in the sense where you're like, this is so fucking jarring, like Uncanny Valley, like where they're trying too hard to make it look ultra-realistic. And the characters were great. I loved Mako. I don't remember the rest of their names. I really only remember Marco's name. But, Knockout was great. Breakdown was great. Megatron was fucking amazing in that series. I thought that was one of the best Megatron that actually showed a lot of, like, depth to his character. You know what I mean? Like, to him, it wasn't like, sometimes they're like, oh, yeah, he's a bad guy. But it explains that, yeah, him and Optimus were besties, and, they wanted to change Cybertron, and Optimus got picked instead of Megatron, and he threw a big hissy fit about it. End of story. What else could I say? But I know Tia's in the boat that super love Transformers Prime. The fandom isn't always great.
So freaking, I never really was into Transformers, right? I freaking watched, I think, the first 3 Transformers movies and just got really tired of them. And so I never considered myself a Transformers fan. And then one day, God, now at this point, so many years ago, me and my boyfriend Paulie were not living together at the time. So I go over his house and he's watching Netflix and he's like, I don't know if I think he had watched it beforehand. He was like, you gotta sit down and watch this with me. It's like watching just a great movie, right? That's how the episodes felt. And I was so hooked. I remember being excited to be like, okay, I'm coming over. Let's watch Transformers Prime.
Right.
And I just love the frickin' show, like, so much. I love the animation style of it. As you said, this was the first show, to me at least, that I got a real grasp of the, their species and what they went through, and really thought that they lived in a society prior to their time on Earth. And I enjoyed Megatron and Optimus Prime's interactions with each other. I didn't find the humans really that intrusive. I was listening to some other people who said that they disliked it because it focused a lot on the humans, but in my mind, I didn't feel that way. They were there.
I did find them quite annoying. They weren't like, oh my god, robots. They were just like, yeah, there's robots. We're just vibing. That's fine.
Yeah, I didn't feel like they ever took too much of the story, but maybe that's just me. And they made the Decepticons personable, because that's the one thing you don't get from the Michael Bay
robots.
That's the one thing you don't get from the Michael Bay movies, right? In this, you get a real taste of like who Starscream is, who oh my god,
you mean the master dick baggy?
Oh my god, who is the bad woman on the Decepticon side? Arachnid?
Who fucking like kills RC's partner in front of her face where the blood splashes up on her face. I'm sorry, Energon splashes up on her face. Yeah, what the fuck kind of kid bullshit is that? That wasn't kid friendly.
She was scary. That's like, she scared the shit out of me. But yeah, I loved RC. I loved Bumblebee. Bumblebee was my favorite in this. Ultra Magnus, frickin' Knockout was great. Played by Darren Norris, who just has like such an iconic voice. But I loved all of it. And I loved Soundwave. I liked his design. I know that the design was like super...
Oh, it was so cool.
It's super different than what we've seen before, but I was okay with it. I just love it. I love this. I'm like looking at the cast of characters and I'm like, I love this show. This show is so good.
You know what's funny is I'll still get messages that are like, please finish this fan fiction. I'm like, you poor fucking suckers. This shit's never going to be finished. It's dead. It's never coming back.
I have so many fan fiction stories like that. Like not even in just Transformers, just in general, right?
Yeah.
And that I feel bad at because I never did anything with them, and it's sorry. But
they're like, please finish it, and you're like, you sucker.
Well, I just think about all of the frickin' stories that I loved reading of other people's, and then, you see that they're incomplete, and then you're like, okay, I wonder when they're going to update, and you look at the last time it was updated, it was like 4 years prior, and you go, oh, it's never getting updated.
It's never going to happen. Was poor fuckers.
I did that actually with one story. I forget which franchise it was for, but I literally did that where I hadn't worked on it in 3 years, and then suddenly I had this massive inspiration literally update. I'm like, hey guys, I know it's been like 3 years, but here's a new chapter.
I think like a big thing for me is it's like been so long since I've written anything in general, that I feel like my writing style would be so different that it would almost all need to be rewritten from scratch to make it not embarrassing for me to reread, unless somebody's gonna be like, "Well, I got a lot better." Not to like, and like a tutor harm, but it's a lot different of a 19-year-old, kid fucking writing shit compared to an actual adult. The sex scenes would be a lot better, not being a child.
Actually, it's so funny. Yesterday, I went back on fanfiction.net because a few years ago, back when I was still really writing fanfiction, I had moved over to Archive of Our Own because they're just so less restrictive than fanfiction.net is. And I feel as if fanfiction.net has taken a lot of shit down because I was looking in the SSX Tricky section, and there's only 300 fan fictions, and I know for a freaking fact that back in the day there was at least like 1,000. So
shit.
They definitely took shit down. So I feel bad for fan fiction writers now because I never felt that Archive of Our Own got to like the status of fanfiction.net. And
those were good times.
They were great times.
Remember, like, when you would have to, like, put in, like, your email for them to, like, send you an invite, and it could take, like, 7 days for them to actually verify you? Or in that if you had somebody already in it, they could suggest you because they knew you were, like, I guess, like, safe, and it's like, they were intense back in the day.
Can I tell you one thing that was so cool about fanfiction.net? And this is something about me that, I'm not going to say that I was like a big deal because I wasn't, but I was recognizable on fanfiction.net because there were plenty of times I had a few stories that did really well, especially when I was writing in the Christopher Nolan like Batman universe. And there were a few times where I commented like I reviewed other people's stories. They'd message back and be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe T.C. Stark is viewing my thing." And it's like, "Oh my God, calm down. I ain't good."
That's the best feeling where you're like, "Yes, recognize me.
But
I'm doing the gosh darn thing."
But that was possible on fanfiction.net. I don't know if that's possible on Archive of Our Own, which makes me even more mad still to this day that the likes of E.L. James' work could get recognized. And there are so many other fan fiction writers out there that put out quality work, and 50 Shades of Grey is the one that got international recognition.
Right.
So
there's a whole part of TikTok where there's a bunch of people that love writing like fairy porn, and I was like, I didn't know that was a thing, but I'm intrigued. Thank you.
There's all types of things on TikTok, all types. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound like hateful or anything, but I've read some amazing freaking shit. And when I read 50 Shades of Grey, I still sat there and said, God, this is what people think of fan fiction writers. When in reality, I've read fan fiction that could top most books that are actually sold out there.
Did you have a moment where you're like, why did I pay for this shit? I could have just read something for free 10 times better.
I read this freaking story by this one girl who wrote a Harley Quinn story. And it was a dark Harley Quinn one, right? And this is a quick breakdown really quick. It was a Harley Quinn one where Harley Quinn was like, what's the one where you like being hurt? Is that masochism?
She was, masochism, because sadism is where, like, you like to hurt other people.
Right. She was like, so the whole thing was still her as a psychologist at Arkham. but she was like a closeted masochist, gets into this relationship with the Joker, and it's super sadomasochism. She realizes by the second one that it's unhealthy, breaks up with him, gets with Hush, but realizes that Hush cannot satisfy her in the way that the Joker can, and her having to deal with herself in the fact that she wants to go back to the Joker for that reason. It was insane.
You're like, this should have been the one that won. This should have won. The one that won.
Every time that girl put out a new chapter, it was like, when you're like sitting there and you have your like head on the table and you're just like banging the table with your fist because you're just so excited. You're like, yes.
But that's like when they, you almost like didn't feel like stressed out, but you would almost feel like a hyper like reaction where you suddenly get very like, just like your body's like, I'm burning up, I'm sweating. Like, I guess it was the definition of, I need a cold shower.
Oh my God, people are going to listen to this and be like, no, you two are exactly what we thought fan fiction writers were like. And it's like, all right, I'm sorry. I'll take it. But anyway, Brittany, fantastic. Transformers Prime. It's the show that literally brought us together as friends. And I'm not saying that hypothetically, like, oh, they, met on Twitter or something and talked about. No. We literally met because she was writing Transformers Prime fan fiction, and I commented on it, and it went from there. And that was our friendship.
And now I don't write anymore because I'm pathetic and stupid. But hey, at least I got a friendship out of it, and you're never getting rid of me ever.
I don't really write fan fiction anymore. I haven't really had the time to write anything other than articles. But I still to this day am working on another book. For those who are listening, I like years ago, literally 6-7 years ago, self-published 2 books. They're on Amazon Prime. Not Amazon Prime, sorry. They're on Amazon Kindle. You can read them. They're free now at this point. But
all right, read them. They're free. You have nothing else to lose.
But I am still working on my 3rd book, and I sound like George R.R. Martin, who literally has said that he's been working on the latest Game of Thrones book for the past 10 years. And it's like, I want to get mad, but I relate because I've been working on a 3rd book for the past 5 years. And I probably haven't touched it in about a year. So, it is what it is.
No big deal.
One day, maybe before I'm 40, I'll finish it, but...
What are you talking about? You're going to stay young forever. Not that 40 is old, but you get me.
I get you. I don't even want to think about it. I turned 31. I'm trying to contend with the fact of lying to myself and telling myself that that's not old.
You're not old, baby girl.
Thank you. So my number 3, speaking about Harley Quinn, is Batman the Animated Series.
Yes, I knew when I was talking about Justice League, I was like, if Tia doesn't say Batman,
You want to talk about, I recognize that the common theme here is us talking about shows that were the shows that defined characters for us, and Batman the Animated Series absolutely defined Batman for me. It defined the Joker for me, Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Two-Face, every character that is in the Batman roster was defined by Batman the Animated Series. I love this show. It is a show that I couldn't wait to watch. If it was on and say I was at school or I was at if I was taking gymnastics or softball, whatever activity I was involved in and I couldn't be at home to watch it, I would literally record the episode on a VHS tape and come home and watch it. I love the series. I love the series so much. The opening, didn't it feel so like 1930s noir? It felt very like corrupt and things like that. Batman was awesome. Bruce Wayne was awesome. I love the whole detective thing. And I even love Robin in it. And I'm never really the hugest fan of Robin, but I liked Robin in Batman the Animated Series. I love the Scarecrow. I can ramble on and on of how much I loved this series. But before I pass it to you, Brittany, I don't know if you have a favorite episode, but my favorite episode, and I still remember it to this day, is the episode where Batman is tricked into going to Arkham Asylum and all of the inmates have broken out and they hold a court. They hold court for him where the Joker is the judge and they're pretty much putting him on and they're pretty much putting Batman on trial. So fucking
Yeah, I'm
good.
trying to remember because that was really. I'm trying to think what I know that I really like the Joker when he looks like the spy versus spy. I know I can always say that. That is true.
He
He
did
looks like spy. I'm trying to think of how to describe it. It was just like the way he like looked. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I'm trying to think if there was a favorite episode. Man, what do I remember more than anything?
I mean,
I
you
know
don't have
we-
to. That episode always stood out to me.
I
Or the
know,
episode.
but that's so weird for me to not even be able to think of an episode. Maybe I'm tired because I love that show so much, but that's why it bothers me. I can't think anything off the top of my head right now.
I really enjoyed the depiction of Scarecrow. I enjoyed so much about it. Poison Ivy was great. I loved Harley Quinn. This was a lot of people may not realize this, but Harley Quinn was not introduced in the comics. Harley Quinn was introduced in this show. So
People loved her, obsessed.
I was obsessed. I loved Harley Quinn. That's why I really like Margot Robbie's rendition of Harley Quinn because I feel it's the closest that we could get to Batman the Animated Series version. But yeah, Bruce
She's
Wayne.
the right amount of playful, but also insane.
Yeah, exactly. Bruce Wayne was great. I loved him and Alfred. They were so there's just so much to love about this series.
So sassy.
It was action-packed every single episode. There were a lot of really great storylines. There was a really good Mr. Freeze storyline, if I'm not mistaken, too.
Didn't that Mr. Freeze, didn't he kill his parents?
I can't really remember because it has been a long time, but I just remember
No, I
that.
get you.
I do remember that every episode, every villain had their own contained episode that really explored them further. Was it in that show too that they established that Poison Ivy and Two-Face had dated, or Harvey Dent and Dr. Pamela Isley or something had dated? And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
That's interesting. I like that. That's interesting. But
Because wasn't her whole thing that she started injecting herself with poison, so her kisses were literally toxic?
I think so. I'm trying to remember because her story changes so much and it's been so long since I've seen it. I also didn't that Batman also set up for the Justice League Batman, like the way his suit was?
Yeah, I always wondered, I think the Batman the Animated Series is supposed to be a precursor to Justice League. Like, you have Batman the Animated Series, you have Superman the Animated Series, and I believe that those two led up to the Justice League. So we're supposed to, feel like that's this, because that's the same Joker, and that's the same Lex Luthor from the separate series.
Yeah. Wait, repeat that last part. That last part, it cut out for a second.
I was saying that in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, right? The Joker and the Lex Luthor that we have are the same characters from the individual series. So I think that
not, because with Superman animated, it was almost exactly the same too.
Yeah. Did you ever watch Superman the Animated Series? I didn't watch it
I
as much.
I barely remember it because I was so much more obsessed with Batman. Batman was so much cooler.
Well, because he was so like dark and brooding, and just working in the shadows.
I think that's like describes a lot of how our life is.
I will say with Superman the Animated Series, the one episode for me that always sticks out is the episode of Metallo, who was obsessed with Lois Lane, and once he becomes like metal, he tries to kiss her and realizes that he can't feel anything.
Oh, yes, I know who you're talking about. Because Metallo, was he the one? Yes, that's depressing. That's depressing as hell.
It
Like,
was.
isn't he going to be in a new show or a new movie, Metallo?
I think you're thinking about the fact that there were plans to make Scoot McNairy Metallo after Batman versus Superman.
Never mind. Now I'm depressed again. Thanks, Tia.
But yeah, Batman the Animated Series is just like, as any nerd or geek like grew up with that show and loves that show, and I feel as if again that's the defining show for Batman. And I grew up loving Batman. That's the thing. As much as I shit on current DC movies, and it may seem as if I've gotten people literally who've said, "Oh, you're just like an MCU fan, and you hate DC." And I sit there and go, "I don't hate DC. I grew up with DC. I didn't grow up with."
It was such a big part of our childhood.
I
It's
didn't
okay to criticizing doesn't mean hate.
Exactly. To me, I sit there and go, you have no idea about how I grew up. I didn't grow up knowing any Marvel characters. You know, you think I knew who the hell Iron Man was before Robert Downey Jr. played him? Hell no. I knew who Batman was because I grew up with Batman. I played with, oh my God, Catwoman was the best in Batman. Like that. Okay. So I always
Should I question myself?
Yes, me too. Me too. I will say in Batman the Animated Series, there was a romance between Bruce Wayne and Selina, and I shipped it. But then when you watch Justice League and you saw Bruce Wayne with Wonder Woman, you're like, I shipped that too.
Yeah, they're like, what? That's how fucking harem fucking fan fiction happens. When you give people too many choices, holy shit.
Yeah, what are you doing to us? You showed us in one show that he went really well with Catwoman, and then you're showing us in another show that he goes really well with Wonder Woman. What's going on here?
And then Batman goes, oh no, I'm in danger.
Oh my God. But yeah, Batman the Animated Series is just top tier animation. It's a requirement for anyone who is a self-proclaimed superhero fan. You love Batman the Animated Series. And if you don't, I don't know. You just didn't have a chance.
You're lying.
You're lying.
But,
Brittany, let's move on. Unless you have anything else to say, we can move on to number 2.
I was gonna say I'm gonna have to go with my new big favorite right now, the new Invincible show, which I'm gonna try to avoid spoilers since there was so much that happened in the finale just happened. I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But the freak out, like it brought back my old love of like Justice League. Like, you know, I still love those things, but it's like the thought of like, oh, there's all these characters, it made me want to write fan fiction again. And I have not had that kind of feeling in a long, long time. But the characters that they have, the build up, you know, there's not often times that we have like, you know, where they are just the son of a hero. You know, sometimes you have like, oh, Superman's clone, you know, Superboy. I think it's that what they called him. Boy Wonder? No, that's Robin. Sorry. But you know, they kind of like were Robin, where he's, you know, kind of brought in, but to have like a superhero whose father is the, you know, world's strongest, you know, superhero, and you know the amount of stuff he can do, and figuring out that things aren't quite the way that they seem, say with Omni-Man, as we found out in episode 1. That's not a spoiler that he killed the entire Justice League, and everybody's trying to figure out why that happened, even though nothing's certain yet. And having that over, and having a character who so badly wants to be like their father and be strong and be what people can rely on, and you just kind of figuring out he is half alien, as they state. He's half Viltrumite, or yeah, Viltrumite. I had to think of the name for him. But to have a character that's like, he's a late bloomer, they're trying to figure out if he was going to have the powers or not, and kind of that struggle that you see Omni-Man is, starting something that you don't quite know into the finale of what truly is going on, or if you're like reading the comics. But I posted about I sobbed so hard in the finale, Tia. I had people looking at me in my car funny. Like, that's how fucking bad. I was sobbing at the college because I was like, oh, they have the scenes, because I don't mind spoilers, and that those parts I sent you were fucking just gut wrenching. It's like, oh no, the only thing I can say with the, like, without being too spoiler, is like, you, Dad, I'd still have you, and it's like, ugh, I just wanted to throw up everywhere. But it was so adult, and I think as sometimes people are like, oh, comics are for kids, and then you go, this is not for kids. This is like, if you had a child, would you let them watch Omni-Man ripping the literal guts out of a fucking character? Holy shit. That was pretty fucking brutal.
So I'm probably in the small percentage of people who haven't checked out Invincible yet, but I remember the hype around this show when it first came out, or even before it came out, because the voice cast is just phenomenal. And we got the trailer to view, and I began watching it first. I'm like, okay, this is cool. It's a nice little animated superhero show. Okay, whatever. And then all of a sudden there's like blood and this and that in the trailer. I'm like, oh, this is not for children at all.
This is like something you put on with your kids and go, we're going to watch superhero. And it's like, no. There's shit that happened. Like, there's legitimate child death in that show, where they really show, like, I think there's, like, one part, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like, because I haven't seen the full episodes of every single one of them yet, but I was kind of seeing, like, some flashback parts, and I think there's, like, a part where, like, an Invincible is learning how to save people, and, either having someone's, brain exploded right in front of his face and being, covered in blood, or, trying to save someone and their arm ripping off because of, either the fight or, the sheer trauma of trying to save people. It's really fucking brutal. And, the main character nearly dies multiple times throughout the series. It's fucking insane.
So I haven't watched the show, as I just said, but I've watched clips and everything like that. And someone pointed out, because Invincible is on Amazon Prime, and it seems as if Amazon Prime has kind of found its niche in the superhero game to do the raunchy, more violent superhero stuff that other, places won't touch. Because it's like, all right, you have Netflix that was doing Marvel shows, but now they're doing Jupiter's Legacy. Then you obviously have Marvel and DC, and it's like, okay, well, what does Amazon Prime get? And they do it well. They got The Boys and they got Invincible, and they seem to really have a grasp on what they're doing.
They're doing so good. Like, and my thing is that there's some, it's like, I think they're finding the right balance, because, you don't want someone where it's like, oh, it comes like, and I'm not knocking on Quentin Tarantino, but, it's like being known of just so gory and being gory for gory's sake, that, they really kind of plan out exactly why it would be that way. Like in The Boys, it's kind of like, what would you do if there is people that are fucking super powered and can't do anything about it? You know what I mean?
Well, I just like that it explores a twist, with Invincible and the boys, right? You have Marvel and DC that's always like, okay, the people with powers are the really great ones, and then you have villains. Well, what happens, in the case of the boys in Invincible, where you have characters that seem like they're the heroes, but in fact they're assholes.
Yeah. Or like the fucking PR that goes into it. What I liked about Invincible though is, a lot of times we do see, in the Justice League where they really want to save people while they're fighting. But, it almost comes as not always a second thought, but, it's not as much spoke about. So I thought it was really interesting with the beginning scenes of it with the Guardians when they're like making sure they don't truly even fight the villains until they're making sure they completely evacuated everyone from the situation before they truly fought to like make sure they had no casualties.
So I have a question for you. Who is worse? Omni-Man or Homelander?
Well, there's two different parts to it, and this is where we are getting to spoilers, guys. Just a little bit is you have Homelander, right? Who, he's kind of sadistic for sadistic's sake. You know what I mean? Like
I hear the S's.
Yeah, well, it's because I wanted to say because of sadistic state instead of sake, and I was trying to get my tongue right. I don't know what was wrong with me. But, with Omni-Man, his deaths are a lot worse because, how I said there was legitimate child death in the series to teach Mark a lesson where he's trying to show how fragile humans are. He grabs Mark's head and holds him in front of a subway train so his whole body goes through it, and Invincible's body is actually killing people through the train, and he's getting splattered with like blood of children and stuff, and that was pretty horrific. That fucked me up a little bit, especially because I really like Omni-Man, but there is the point where Homelander is fucked up and sadistic, and I do think, Omni-Man is, I don't know if he's truly sadistic or his perception of humanity is a lot more warped because since he can live to be, multiple thousands of years old, what does a blip of a human life look like to you? And, he was a soldier, he was, trained since birth to do a certain thing, and to see, though, we do start to see the humanity of him where he's having flashbacks where it's like, when he's beating Mark so bad and nearly to death, and that's why I said I'm like getting into spoilers for the finale, but you have a moment where, he said it like with Debbie, right? He's like, oh, I love your mother, but she's more like a pet to me. But he keeps having flashbacks of her because he truly loves her, but you almost have a feeling, they almost imply that he's been a soldier so long because there's parts where when he's beating Mark and he looks so upset and he almost has to collect himself to start being bad again, to yell at Mark, like to try to get through to him. So it almost like implied that it's like he's been a soldier so long and he's been on a mission for so long, because when he's beating Mark, he's like, oh, what's another 17 years to make, like, to start all over and, have another kid and all this. But it's like, yeah, but that's your son, and you're having flashbacks of him being a little baby and just holding him up and just being so happy. So it's kind of hard where it's like, I think Omni-Man's deaths are super fucked up and super brutal, but I think he has a little more leeway for the way that he is, having been thousands of years old and being trained as a soldier to do a certain thing and being taught a certain way. I know that's kind of like a long way of saying it, but it's like, I guess Homelander would technically be worse, even though we've seen some really fucked up things out of Omni-Man. And I'm not just being like an Omni-Man apologist, because he's super fucked up, like enough that it made me sick to my stomach when I watched some of those scenes with Omni-Man. But I think that's just how good the show is, though. The character writing, where they were able to make his face convey the emotion that he doesn't want to do something, that he's collecting himself to be strong enough to, yell at Mark, like, get through to him, but also how badly he doesn't want to do those things. And it's crazy that they could animate their face in a way where you really get that idea from them. So, yeah.
Well, no, I was going to say, like, with Omni-Man, from what I've seen, it seems as if he is a person of, what's it called? He's a person of sanity.
Yeah.
He's just brutal, right? But he is of sound mind. Whereas, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say, but, there is, I don't know if you watched it, where it gives the history of his people, where, his own people wiped out half of their population because they said they had to weed out the weak, and they killed all of their own people to only be left with the strongest.
Yeah. Which is a super messed up environment to grow up in. So,
yeah.
But
hyper-interrupting.
No, I was going to say, I had only asked the question because whatchamacallit, Kanan on our official Twitter page had proposed the question of who was worse, Omni-Man or Homelander. And I was going to say that as terms of like brutality, it seems as if Omni-Man has done more of the brutal killings, but Homelander is far less sane. So I feel as if it goes to Homelander only for the simple fact that he really doesn't have his own sound mind or judgment. So that's where the point is.
Man doesn't have a breastfeeding fetish, so
that
kind of. Yeah, so that gets some. I don't care how many people you kill, as long as you ain't trying to suckle over there, you nasties.
That is like, so gross.
That's so gross. It's so gross. Like, when that happened, I was like, well, kind of thought Homelander was attractive, and now I kind of don't. I kind of really don't. Holy shit.
Yeah, no. But yeah, I know that you love Invincible. People have been loving Invincible. Dom, one of our associates at Geek Vibes Nation, has been reviewing each episode on a weekly basis, so you can check those reviews out at geekvibesnation.com. He is loving the show. He says that it's probably the best piece of animation that he's ever seen. Jawan, I remember every week that we were doing a podcast, said that he watched the latest Invincible episode and he was just blown away. So it's definitely something that I have to get on watching-wise, especially since Invincible has been renewed for 2 more seasons. So it didn't just get a season 2 renewal, it got a season 3 renewal as well. So Amazon Prime is feeling really good about this show.
Yeah, it was insane when, we waited so long to see the renewal of certain, like American Gods, but when something does so good that they're like, we're not only going to give you 1 more season, we're going to give you 2 more seasons because we trust you that much.
Well, not for nothing, that's happened every time with The Boys. Before season 1 came out, they already said it's been renewed for a season 2, and before season 2 came out, they said it had been renewed for a season 3. So, Amazon Prime, when they know that people like something, they just roll with it.
Yeah, and people are going to be like chomping at the bit because even, so many people come for the next season, even if it didn't do as great as the last one, it's still going to be good enough that people are going to be like, I want another one. Exactly. And another one.
And with Invincible, that finale left so much on the table that how could you not continue the story? So yes, I agree. Invincible takes the number 2 spot. Let's get down to the number 1, and let's just go through the list before we get to number 1. So we have X-Men Evolution, Looney Tunes, Justice League / Justice League Unlimited, Samurai Jack, Steven Universe, Gargoyles, Transformers Prime, Batman Animated Series, Invincible, and my number one, I will admit that I feel as if my number one should be in the same spot that Batman the Animated Series is in, and it should have been reversed. I misspoke when I put Batman down. I was like, damn it, I should put that as the number one. But I still love this show, and it's a show that I try to put on lists as frequently as possible, and it's going to be, of course, Bob's Burgers.
Oh, shit, bitch. Oh, shit. I don't blame you. I do not blame you. You can switch around or whatever, but Bob's Burger is so fucking good.
I mean, I talk about Bob's Burgers all the time, but, you know, I'm going to say it again. It's a fantastic show. It's currently my favorite, I would say adult cartoon, even though it's certainly not to the degree of something like Invincible, and it's not to the degree of Family Guy or American Dad or South Park, but it definitely touches upon some adult things, right? I don't know how to say that because, you know, they literally have an episode where the kids find out that their parents are all at a nude beach. And so, I mean, like, that's not necessarily, like, kid, but it's also not raunchy. So I don't know what category that really falls into.
It's just, like, wholesome fun. It's something I would have loved, like, if I was still living with my parents to just, like, watch with them.
Yeah, I mean, and the funny thing is, I remember when Bob's Burgers first premiered, because I was still living at home with my parents, and my parents are big cable network TV watchers. So when you're going through cable network, I remember seeing the commercials for the show, and I went to go check it out, and I actually did not like the first episode. So I turned it off, and I think maybe going back and watching it on Hulu, not having anything else better to watch, I loved it. I was hooked. It is my go-to show. I love Bob. I love Linda, the kids. I love their crazy antics. And it's for a really long time, Bob's Burgers was my go-to-sleep show. Like, Paulie would tell me that he knew that I was getting ready for bed because I put on Bob's Burgers.
Oh, shit. He's got you pegged.
But, I don't know. It's so good because the thing is, you know, really quick for those who don't know the show, I mean, it follows Bob and his wife Linda and their three insane children, and Bob is trying to maintain a business, a burger shop. And the thing is, and I've seen people point it out before, I think even Cindy pointed out, where Bob is actually really good at what he does. It's not like he's a crappy cook. He's really good. It's just he never gets a chance because he comes from humble background and he lives in a block where, you know, more commercial food is accepted, like Jimmy Pesto, who makes really terrible Italian food, but because he relies on gimmicks to get customers, they go there. And Bob wants the quality of his food to stand out. And you see so many times in episodes that, you know, people will kind of mock him the whole time, and then they'll take a bite of his burgers, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is so good!"
Yeah. I love when he would get the recognition, where it's like, I'm trying to remember. That was like, remember when his buddy is like wanting to get in on the business with him, and he keeps giving him the money. And he was like, you know, I just wanted the fight of, like, having, you know, what you had because you have, like, a great thing. Like, it was, like, the difference of what they saw success as.
Right, because Bob saw his friend who had a shit ton of money, who literally had millions of dollars, really expensive watches and cars, and he's like, he's successful. And I'm literally living with my family above our restaurant in our small apartment, barely making ends meet. And his friend saying, like, you're so successful. You have your own burger shop. You have your amazing family. I wish I had that. And Bob's like, you literally just handed me $2 million, but yet I'm the successful one, you know? And that is great. And that was the thing, is that his friend wanted to do gimmicks. He wanted to do like a Hawaii tiki sort of gimmick. And Bob said he didn't want that. He literally gave the money back because he said he'd rather have his restaurant live on principle than have a gimmick.
Well, that's kind of crazy. It kind of shows like his integrity, as silly as for to say kind of like about just like a show, but it's like he's really held true that it would be hard for me, like living like that, to go, well, my business finally doing good and I can still make good things, to, basically give up on all of that just because you want it done right. But, we kind of saw his beginnings with, like, his dad, not believing in him.
Yeah, and I love how accepting he is as well. There's an episode where his oldest child, Tina, who is a very awkward teenager, or preteen, I forget how old she is. I think she's maybe 13. And she realizes that girls her age get their legs shaved or waxed or something, But she realizes she has like a lot of hair on her legs. So she tries shaving her legs. It goes terribly. And Bob's like, all right, I guess we'll go get your legs waxed. And she's so nervous. And she's like, will you get your legs waxed too? And of course, Bob doesn't really want to, obviously, but he does it. But he does it anyway in support of Tina. And
I always thought that was so sweet.
And then what's so cute is after they're leaving and Jean is jealous because the two of them are talking about how great their legs feel. And Bob's like, all right, we're turning around because he's taking Jean to go get his legs waxed.
All right. Like, I thought that was so, he's a great dad. He may be a shitty business owner, but no, sure. You know what I mean, though? But it's like he's a great dad, though.
I don't know how much of the show you watched, but for some reason, I just thought about the episode where, like, remember the thing is that Bob loves Thanksgiving, which I also
like creepily loves. Like he kind of wants to make love to the turkey, and I'm concerned.
But this is why I love Bob too, because I too love Thanksgiving and no one talks about it. So the fact that you have a character that says that Thanksgiving is their favorite holiday makes me so happy. But there was one episode where he keeps sleepwalking and taking the turkey and putting it in the toilet. And the whole thing is because he's freaking out over his daughter Tina growing older and like not being a child anymore. So he's remembering all the times he potty trained her, and he's having these like sleepwalking moments where he's literally treating the turkey like Tina, which is weird, but also like kind of cute.
You're like, it's cute, but it's weird, but it's cute.
I just love Bob's Burgers. The characters are
still your mother, though. Linda's still your mother, though.
Oh, I know. Linda absolutely reminds me of my mom, in the best of ways, because Linda's fun, and that's another thing. Bob is grumpy as hell. Like, there's a famous GIF where Linda's trying to get Bob to come out so that they could go to some dinner theater, and Bob's like, fine, I'll go, but I'll complain about it the whole time. And I love that dynamic.
Right? I love it. I love it. That's a great pick, though.
Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, Bob's Burgers ends out the list for us. Brittany, before I let you go this evening, because it is late and I'm sure you're tired, I'm tired. So do you have any honorable mentions before we wrap everything up tonight?
I think, I like Gravity Falls. I like, what's some of the, SpongeBob has to go on there, Gumball. There's a bunch of other ones. I have more than I could really name right now. All those good shows we watched growing up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just look at all 90s cartoons. Dexter's Laboratory, Powerpuff Girls, Rocko's Modern Life, Ren and Stimpy, Two Angry Beavers, Cat Dog, frickin' Doug, Hey Arnold.
Doug was good.
Hey Arnold was the shit, there's so many, again, just Google 90s cartoons and all of them are just fucking phenomenal. Much better than what they have today. I will say, as an honorable mention, I gotta put South Park down. I haven't kept up with South Park in years, but I watched the hell out of South Park growing up. And it is such a wrong show. It's so wrong. Brittany, I don't know how they're still on, because if you think about it, it is like the most button pushy, non-PC thing out there, and it is still going all these years later. And I'm like, whatever formula they have, I guess keep up with it.
I think it's kind of like when you have someone you're like, well, that's the way they've been since forever, so I guess they haven't changed. So I don't see them changing anytime soon.
Hell no. So yeah, but Brittany, this has been the top 10 best animated shows. Please let everyone know where they can find you, what you got going on.
Gonna say you can always find me on Twitch at Itty Bitty Brit. I'm hoping after next week I should be finished up with classes so I can go back to my regular schedule. I've been severely slacking lately on the streaming and all that good stuff. So that's where you're gonna be able to find me. I am gonna be picking up a lot more, streaming a lot more. And as for Twitter, you can find me on Itty Bitty Brit 0.
Yes, absolutely. Please make sure that you check that out. Brittany is a very dedicated streamer who spends lots of hours of her time trying to entertain you all. And if you donate to her, you'll watch her do a cat dance.
No.
As for me, you can check me out on Twitter and Instagram at TC_Stark. Please also make sure you check out geek5snation.com. It has links to all of our social media accounts. If you sign up for our bi-monthly newsletter, you'll be able to check out all of our latest and greatest. As I said, our YouTube channel, Geek Fives Podcast, has reached 1,000 subscribers, which is awesome. Please keep that up. I was considering for a hot second streaming, but my thing is that anything I want to stream, I don't think I could, only because SSX Tricky's on the frickin' PlayStation 2, so what am I going to do with that? But we'll
figure out something, because even if you did podcasts on there or just spoke about shows or current things, I think you would do amazing.
Thank you. It's just, I think I always need a co-host. I don't know if I could do that on my own, because I would need, say, a glass of water. And as someone who, went to school for broadcast journalism and wanted to initially be in radio, I have an immense fear of something called dead air. So the idea of just doing a solo and having to take a pause for something really freaks me out. But
I was gonna say, and people understand, because I can't tell you how many times I've been like, I gotta go pee, I'll be back, chill. But you can always put on no copyrighted music on, just as background music. I put the camera on the cats.
I guess, but again, anyone who's gone to school to try to be in radio knows that the thing they drill into you is that the worst nightmare ever is having a second of dead air. So I don't know. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please give us a like, comment. What is your favorite animated show? And we will see you next week. Happy Mother's Day. And yeah, peace, guys.
Happy Mother's Day.
For National Nurses Week, Fortis is honoring the millions of nursing professionals in our community, caring for loved ones. More so today, the need for nurses is vital, and Fortis College and Institutes recruits people like you to train to become a nurse. Do you want to be a nurse? Start your essential career in nursing with a Fortis education. Just visit fortis.edu to learn about hybrid instruction and online enrollment. Then talk to Fortis by dialing #250. keyword nursing school.
What you doing?
Trying on glasses with Zenny's 3D virtual try-on.
Wait, are those the actual prices? I say get all of them.
Seriously, why not, right?
Oh, now I want new glasses.
Zenny.com. Quality prescription glasses starting at $6.95.